And it looks like we are now officially live. So let's have a quick look. I can see that we've joined by a few people already, which is great. Hello, SF Digital Studios. Vova Tipletsky. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Anton, Tonya. Hello, everybody. So I think what we'll do is just give everyone a few minutes to arrive, and then we will officially get started. So a couple of quick introductions to the panel. I'm joined today by Hilary Kay, who is the Chief Marketing Officer at Wibbits. Hi, how are you today?
Great. Hi,
Awesome.
Luke.
Hi there, hi. And of course, we're joined by Dr. I. Addison Zhang from Classroom Without Walls. I, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So excited to be here.
Awesome. I love the energy. So let's just do a couple of quick introductions if we can. So first of all, I'm the host for today. My name is Luke Sharon. I'm the owner of a YouTube certified digital marketing agency, Falcon Digital. And I'm currently joining you today from our offices in a town called Warrington in the UK. Now, I wouldn't expect anyone outside of the UK to have heard of Warrington before, but it's in the northwest of England, and it's kind of in between Liverpool and Manchester. So everybody in the chat, let me know where you are in the world. It's always fascinating to see where we're being joined from. So please comment the country and the city that you're in. Let's have a look. Yeah, no more. Oh, we've got another new arrival. We've got Legitimate Matters. Hello to you. Hopefully you can now see us. We have audio and sound now as well. Sorry, audio and visuals now as well. Okay, so Hilary, firstly, welcome to you. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from New York City.
Awesome. I've always wanted to go to New York. I think it's just a place I've always wanted to visit. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to guess that you don't have similar aspirations about visiting Warrington in the UK.
I do love the UK, Warrington. I'm not even sure where it is, so maybe if I looked into it, I could be interested.
I think anecdotally, it was voted like second best town in the UK at one point or something, but don't quote me on that.
Impressive.
So, do you want to introduce yourself very briefly and tell us a little bit about what you do at Wibbits?
Sure. So I'm the CMO at Wibbits. I joined Wibbits about 5 years ago. So I lead all of our global marketing and communication strategy, everything from brand to demand generation, product marketing, performance. So really cover the board. And of course, within that is our website and using video for it. In the past 5 years, there's been quite a lot of changes in the industry, in the video industry, as I'm sure both of you are very aware of. So been able to kind of see that shift and also been a big part of it with the company.
Amazing. Sounds great. And we've got a few more people just leaving their locations now. So we've got people coming in from New York. So we've got Lex Patterson from Utah in the USA. We have, I think, Jose from New York. Tonya is from Frisco in Texas. We've got Vermont, USA. A lot of US here. Hillary Allen from Toronto. Your bandwagon from New Orleans, Louisiana. So definitely a good mix. And Mendo Digital from Mendocino, I think, is that on Northern Californian coast. And we've got a few from the UK. SF Studios are from Bedfordshire. Pure Motion from Colchester in the UK. So a very, very nice mix. Our other panelist is, of course, I welcome to you too. And where are you joining us from today?
I'm in the neighborhood of Hillary. I'm joining you guys live from Philadelphia, and really excited and welcome to everyone to join us live. Yeah.
Amazing. So you guys are practically neighbors in the grand scheme of things, and it's on the West Coast. It is what, 1 p.m. over there at the moment, is it? I hope you guys have both had your lunch.
Yeah, 1 p.m. East Coast,
good.
but yeah, we're
East
1
Coast.
p.m.
Sorry. Yeah, East. Right.
It's around 5 for you.
Yeah, 5 p.m. It's actually just starting to get dark here. So yeah, it's approaching the evening very quickly. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and Classroom Without Walls?
Yeah, totally. And I am a professor turned entrepreneur. I taught in higher education in the US and a few different countries for 10 plus years. And I just resigned. Now I'm building my own school, which is Classroom Without Walls.
Amazing. Fantastic. I have to say, I love your energy every time you speak. It's incredible. We've got more people joining us now as well, from Paris in France, Costa Rica, another one from Toronto. So a really, really good mix. Okay, so I think we've probably given everyone enough time. I have a bit of an echo there. Okay, that seems to have gone. I think we've given everyone enough time to join us. So let's officially get started. The topic of the webinar today is about the power of video and how you can use video to improve the performance of your website and what impact it can have on the website's user experience at every stage of the customer journey. So in just a moment, I'm going to hand over to Hillary so she can deliver her presentation. If you have any questions, please just add them to the chat. At the end of the presentation, we'll then work through them all. So I'm really excited to see this presentation. So without further delay, over to you, Hillary.
All right, so we'll get started. So as Luke said, we're going to be talking about how you can improve website performance using video. I'm really excited to be joining you here today. And for anyone who just recently joined, I'm the CMO at Wibbits. I've been with Wibbits for the past 5 years, helped to launch to the US market and the European market, and have really seen the evolution of digital video over these past 5 years within many different industries. So I'm excited to share with you today a little bit about my own personal experience leading our marketing team, but also what we've seen in the market. I'm going to also have Luke and I just reintroduce themselves for anyone who's joined us.
So yeah, so I've actually been, it says 9 years at Falcon Digital there. It's actually approaching 11 years actually at Falcon Digital. But we have always been involved in video production or filming in kind of some facet. But since about 2016, we really started to focus in on video marketing, specifically within kind of on the YouTube platform. Similar to Hillary, we were very fortunate enough to kind of witness firsthand the profound impact that video could have on businesses, both large and small. And so we kind of made it our aim, our goal to kind of travel all around the world and just find out as much as we could from the best kind of video marketers in the world. I've got a bit of a personal investment in this as well, because we all set up our own personal YouTube channels. Mainly as a testing ground initially, but they've all become kind of our primary kind of hobby, our primary interest, and we've gained millions of views to those channels, and we help other businesses kind of get those same results using the same kind of principles and strategies that we recommend.
Great. All right, and
Yeah, so it is so interesting to hear from Luke, the agency perspective. I'm a solo entrepreneur, and about a few years ago, and I discovered live streaming video, and that changed my life. I started to live stream on Facebook and now on different social media platforms. I also started to embrace video content, and quite a few of my videos gained millions of views, and it has really changed my brand and my business and what I do, and now really building my own school, and video content has really helped my business grow and build this global community. So really thankful for this channel. And I don't have a high-end production team, so I do everything myself. And like even with a low budget, if you know how to use video effectively and strategically, this can work.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But just to say, I think we have an amazing group here, definitely different perspectives from the brand side, the agency, the solo entrepreneur. So a lot of really great insights that we can all share, sort of different perspectives of video. All right, so let's jump into it. We're going to spend the next 15 minutes or so going over some key items when it comes to how you can improve your website performance using video. After that, we're going to go into a panel discussion, as Luke mentioned, and following that, we'll go through Q&A. So make sure to send in any questions that you have throughout the presentation and the panel, and we'll make sure to get to them at the end. All right, so let's get started. So video really can impact almost all metrics on your website. But when you go to invest in video, you want to really sort of hone in on which metrics you can use to understand if it's working for you. So these 3 key metrics are, I'm sure, ones we're all familiar with regarding just things that we're looking at on our website. And many studies have shown the impact that video can make specifically on these 3 key metrics. So as you go to invest in your video strategy, these are the areas that you can be looking at to really gauge whether or not it's working for you and where you can improve. All right, so a few best practices. Of course, there's lots of things to think about with video, but we're going to go through just 4 focuses for best practices to get started. So the first is context. Whenever you're creating a video and adding it to a page, you want to make sure that the video is relevant to the rest of the content on that page. It may seem obvious, but it's not always the case. And it's really important when you're thinking about the impact that this will have on your search ranking. Another thing is to make sure that videos are actually providing value specific to the context of the page that they live within. So this is similar to how you think about content in general, but you want to make sure that you're speaking to the challenges, the objectives, and the goals of your audience. The second is length. So it might be surprising how short you actually want videos to be. Typically, you have around 10 seconds to capture someone's attention when they're watching a video. So you need to take those 10 seconds to really make sure that you're engaging them in order to maintain their attention throughout the rest of the video. I'm sure we all can relate to this, that our attention spans online are very, very short and maybe even getting shorter by the day. So just keep that in mind as you're creating video content. The third is optimization. So a few key things here. Keeping it short, like we just said. So the other important part about keeping your video short is to make sure that you are reducing the actual file size of a video. Videos tend to be a bit heavier, so that can impact the page load time on your website. So keeping it short is one way to optimize for that. Another way is you can actually host videos on a different platform. So for example, we're using Vimeo in order to host our videos, and then actually using the Vimeo embed link to embed it within our site. So that can also help to optimize for page load. And lastly, you want to think about making sure you're optimizing each video for search. So this means using keywords, probably that you found with SEMrush, in the titles of the video file and in the description. So that will actually help with your search ranking when you're using keywords within the meta information of the video. And lastly, always having a call to action at the end of your video is important. If you've kept people watching to the very end, you want to take that opportunity while they're super engaged to drive them to whatever next action it is that you're looking for them to take. So whether it be downloading a report or signing up for a webinar like this, or it could be requesting a demo of your product, you want to make sure there's a very clear call to action at the end of that video and making it clickable whenever possible. So as I mentioned, we're using Vimeo for our video hosting, and you're actually able to add very easily a call to action at the end of each video. So where should these videos actually live? Well, that depends on the goal of each page. So let's take these 4 key pages: homepage, customer pages, product pages, and your blog and article pages. So let's think about your homepage. The goal of the homepage is to immediately draw someone in, keep them on your site, make sure they're taking the next step to go visit other pages, and having that first interaction be as positive as possible. So adding a video to your homepage is, of course, a very good way to do that. You can quickly show what you're all about, show what your offering is. So we have an example here from Bloomberg of a video that they've created to add to their homepage. Bloomberg, as I'm sure you're aware, is a publisher. Their goal is to provide valuable news and information to their audience. And so they've identified video as really an essential way to do that. They're adding video to the homepage, and they've actually created almost a like a homepage for video itself in order to house all of their video content. All right, so let's talk about product pages. The goal of a product page, of course, is to show the services you provide, the value that it brings to your customers, and the general offering that you have. So video is a very, very easy and powerful way to do this by showing visually what you offer. Let's take an example that we have from Littlebits. So Littlebits created this video to show a new product that they launched. It's a toy that helps children understand how to code. Very cool, I must say. I wish I had this as a kid. Even have some R2-D2 themed toys. But you can see that it shows the user very clearly what this product is, what it's all about, and it gets you to actually want to learn more about what they're offering. Customer pages is something I'm sure we are all aware of how valuable it is to show the story and the success that your customers have seen working with your business or using your products. And to tell a story, video is a very, very, if not the most powerful way to do that. You can actually put a face to the name. You can show the success and show what the customer has done. So included a video example that we've actually created here at Wibbits to show the success story of our partner BET. So you can see that we've included some key metrics here, key success metrics about our partnership. And we also, of course, include a quote from the customer themselves. So adding a video to your customer pages is really, really valuable in order to just really hone in on the value that you're bringing to a customer and tell it from the customer's perspective. And lastly, blog and article pages. So I'm sure we're all reading the news in one way or another, and it actually might be watching the news for many of us. So consumers are really expecting to see video as a supplement or even as the key piece of content. So you should plan to do the same with your own content that you're providing. We have an example here from real estate brand Hawaii Life's blog. And it's probably a familiar format to you. You've probably seen on other news sites where you have the video at the top of the article and the article following. That's definitely best practice to put the video above the page folds. All right, so you've probably guessed it by now, and I mentioned before, but at Wibbits, we actually have a platform that makes it very easy to create videos online. So really anybody can create professional quality video without prior experience. And these 4 examples that we just went through were all created by Wibbits customers using our platform. All right, so if you have any, if you're interested in learning more about Wibbits, feel free to jump over to our site, request a demo. We're happy to speak more with you after the webinar. So I'm going to hand it back over to Luke for the panel discussion.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that presentation. It was really, really interesting. We have a question already from Pure Motion. They ask, in general, how do we think the stage of the customer journey affects whether or not the user will watch the video with sound? Are they more likely to watch with the sound further down the funnel?
That's a really great question. I think that it is very possible. We actually don't have any metrics on this, but I think you have to think about where the person is watching this video. So typically, if you're at the top of the funnel, someone might be browsing your blog, or there might be even on one of your social channels. In those channels, less likely to have the sound on, so it might be even more important to have the text there. If you're thinking about a video that maybe your sales team has sent, like a customer story, for example, to one of the prospects that they're talking to that's lower down in the funnel, then they're probably more likely to actually care a little bit more and want to turn on the sound to watch the video.
Out of curiosity, the example videos that you just showed, then, did they have any sound, or were they silent videos?
No, they have sound. I just turned it off for the presentation. Yeah, but yeah, they do have sound. So, and we've seen, it depends on the customer, of course, but we also have many of our customers that are uploading their own video content where someone is speaking to camera, and of course you have the sound there, or an interview format. So of course the sound is important. We do still recommend to have some sort of text on screen, just in case, especially in the beginning, actually, in case someone starts watching without sound, so that they generally know what the video is about.
Definitely. And I think from a social media perspective as well, I think most people will autoplay a video without sound to begin with. Have you got any thoughts on the preferred format of the video? So again, the format of those videos that you showed were quite similar, and they were all created within Wibbits. How important is the format in terms of the kind of content you produce for your website?
And format, do you mean the square, landscape, or vertical?
Yeah, square, landscape, vertical, but also the fact all the content was within kind of the subtitle effect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we definitely recommend having a variety of types. Format, we recommend going off of the channel that it's going to live on. So social channels, of course, you want to have on Facebook and Instagram, typically square in the feed. Any stories format is going to be vertical. Landscape is best for channels like your blog content, and even any sort of product or customer testimonials on your website. So we recommend using landscape on your website. Now, in terms of the types of content, we recommend a mix, and we do use a mix. So we, of course, create lots of videos using Wibbits. We also create some outside of Wibbits that are a little bit more high quality custom footage, but just in terms of cost and resources, it's something that you want to think about, and having a variety there so that you're able to scale while still being efficient. So.
Understood. Sounds good. Okay, so interestingly as well, you talked about the duration of a video. You said how the video needs to be very, very short. I think you recommended about a minute in length in total was kind of your best practice recommendation. Are there any kind of times or any examples when you would have a longer video?
Yes, there
just to point out as well, these aren't all necessarily directed at you, Hilary. By all means, I feel free to jump in on these as well. Yeah. So sorry, Hilary, your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So definitely, I think there are places that you should and can leverage longer form content. One example is a customer story, I would say, and going back to the idea that this is something that can be very valuable lower down in the funnel when someone is more engaged with your brand, more engaged with your product, and they're willing to spend more time looking deeper into what the story is that you're telling in the video. There also are opportunities for more educational types of content, I think. But I do recommend having a shorter version as well. And it's actually something to do with just your video strategy as a whole, making sure you're thinking of how you can sort of chop up videos or leverage videos for multiple video assets. So if you do have a 2 to 3 minute video, figuring out how you can take 30 seconds to a minute out of that longer video and use it for different purposes.
Interesting. So you do a lot of live stream video. Is there a way, do you think, that we could incorporate live stream into a website to improve its performance?
Totally. I also want to follow up on what Hilary just mentioned, regarding how long a video should be. And in my case, and because I do lots of educational content, and my people come to my platforms to learn something. So I think really, like Hillary mentioned, you really have to think about your overall strategy and think about the type of audience who are following you and what they want from you. So for me, educational content, I have shorter videos. I also have longer videos. So sometimes it really depends on the content. And I think if the content is good enough and you are offering so much value to your audience and they want to stay longer. So really like play with it and see how your audience respond to certain types of video. And I think, you know, like the best practice is what works for you. So you really have to be a little bit critical and think about what works for you. And so in terms of live streaming, yes. And I do, my live interviews are hour long and I interview another person, and I have, like, even my live streaming shows are clearly related to my overall business goals. And I think with the video content, so many people start with the video. I think it's good, but you have to reverse engineer a little bit to think about what is the big goal, right? So see that big picture and use that big picture to inform the content you want to produce, the video content you want to produce. So for me, my live streaming shows, I have two. Both of them are closely related to my overarching goal. And so even the people I select are those I want them to discover me. And also I want them to trust me, to see how good I am, or like, you know, if we can work together. And so like for the hour-long interview, I chop them into clips. I post them on my website, on different social media channels, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And that's how I use my live content. Yeah.
And that's an interesting point in itself. So you actually take a longer form piece of content and then you repurpose it for all your different platforms as well. So you're maximizing the amount of use you get out of each video.
Yeah, so we don't have to, you know, produce new content all the time. There is already so much content. Why not repurpose? And some people prefer like blog articles. Some people prefer to watch a video. And I think we need to make it easier for our audience to consume our content.
Definitely. I mean, it's funny, we were having this conversation recently about how people's attention spans are getting progressively worse, seemingly, or their patience is getting worse when it comes to the web, at least anyway. And we talked about the format of websites, even like 5 years ago, how they used to have a lot more content on, and when you chunked the content down and down and down, and people still don't actually read it. But what they will do is sit and watch a 1-minute video without any hesitation, but they won't read a sentence of content, which we found quite fascinating. Question for you again, Hillary, for people that are new to video, what would be a good place? What's a good starting point when it comes to actually adding video to your site? Where do you begin?
It's a great question, and I think it actually goes back first to what I said around figuring out what goals you're trying to achieve or leverage video for. Because many people, I think, sort of just say, video, I know it's important, I want to do video, but they don't really understand video for them or video for their business. So definitely the first place to start is there, just understanding what are my goals, narrowing in on that, and then working backwards almost and understanding what types of videos, which channels should these videos live on, and in order to actually start building out that plan around the types of video content you want to be creating. Then in terms of actually creating it, that also can be a very daunting task for someone who's never created video before. I think it's actually becoming a little more accessible as we have tools like Instagram stories or Facebook Live that are making it very easy for, you know, your average person to jump on and create a video and add text and all of the fancy things there. But creating video for a business is different. I think you have to make sure, you know, you're abiding by all of your brand guidelines, that you have a clear sort of structure there. And so a good place to start if you're looking to kind of create video in-house is to get a few key essentials for filming. So that could be a 4K camera. It even could be an iPhone nowadays. Crazy. A gimbal, it can be very useful. Tripod. They even have handheld teleprompters now, which can be really great to get people in front of the camera. So there are a lot of things out there that you can get and kind of create a DIY studio that actually turns out pretty professional content. The second thing to think about is how are you actually going to edit and create it? So of course, there's platforms like Wibbits that make it very easy for anybody to actually create their own content, splice things together, add their branding, their transitions. And then the third is thinking about how to actually host it somewhere. So I mentioned Vimeo as one of those options. Of course, YouTube is a great one that Luke, I'm sure you're very familiar with, but trying to figure out, okay, I have a video, now what do I do with it?
Awesome. And interestingly, on the kind of the question around equipment, you were nodding your head then when Hilary was talking about different kind of cameras and things. What do you actually use?
I wish I had a production team as Hilary. I don't.
Oh, we don't. Maybe it looks like that, but we don't.
It looks very professional. So this is how I do. Like this, when I travel, I do. When I go to conferences, I just bring this and my smartphone and a nice microphone, and I do interviews that way. I go live that way, and I actually have a nicer microphone, but it's broken. But I do think, audio is important. Even this one is pretty cheap. It's like $20, and you guys can hear me fine, right? And this is my what I use for my lighting. I highly recommend. It's like $100 or so, and that makes a huge difference, especially when you have to go live, in the evening when there's no big window, there's no natural light, and you can make this work with very low budget. I do DIY, and there are a few apps that I use to resize my video to make it look better, to add captions. But there are so many different apps, free, paid ones, and
Awesome. I'm really glad you gave us those insights, because as you were nodding, I was thinking, I bet you've got something juicy to say on this subject. We use a lot of expensive kit, as you can imagine, so it's always nice to hear like the camera-based version as well. We have a question.
I have another point. I think in terms of video production, because I work with others, and people always ask, what equipment do you use? As if when you had this amazing, expensive setup that will make everything perfect, that you do that. Both of us know, like all of us know, that is. Technology is only one slice of the pie. There's like content, there's strategy. There is so much that goes into video production. So don't be so obsessed with the technology you have. Do be more obsessed with the overall strategy. I see so many people, they don't have a strategy. They just go live, they do this and that, which is so fun. Even if you get millions of views, if you don't have a strategy, so what? So I think, I just want to add that point.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people get very focused on equipment and quality and these kinds of things. And, especially if a video isn't as successful as they think, the first thing they think about isn't, well, is the content right? Was the strategy right? It's, well, maybe my video needs to be 4K instead of 4HD. Maybe that's the problem. It's a really great point. I think even when you're using things like mobile phones, with the right lighting, so with that lighting setup that you've got, just having that light can make a huge difference to the quality. And what we've noticed a lot is that people can tolerate a lower quality picture, but what they can't tolerate is bad audio. So I think as long as you've got a mic, however cheap it may be, it can make a big difference to the overall quality. Okay, we have a question from SF Digital Studios. They have asked, which gimbal would you recommend? If you want, I can jump in on this one. It depends on what you're using to film with. So, for example, when we're using mobile phones, we use a Phaetech gimbal. It's for mobile phones. It's very, very powerful. We can actually attach a GoPro to it as well. and it's pretty cheap. I think it was about £120. And one of the great things about it actually is it has face tracking. So if you were to move from one side of the room to the other, the gimbal will actually automatically follow you around. So it doubles up as quite a nice bit of equipment. When we're using our digital SLR cameras, we use something like the Ronin, which is a DJI Ronin S, which is a big piece of kit. It takes a long time to set up and stabilize, but it's for kind of like professional filming. It's not something that we would use just for like talking heads or something like that. Another question from Hans Knapp: Wistia or YouTube or both? I'm guessing that means in terms of where you host your videos. I can say from my perspective, I'm extremely biased, so take this with a pinch of salt, but I would always say YouTube. But then again, it depends on the format of the content. So I like YouTube very much for longer form content. I think for shorter form content, I might be more inclined to use something like Wistia. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
So I mentioned we use Vimeo. Wistia is also a great option for video hosting for marketing teams. But YouTube, we do also upload our video content to because of the SEO boost that it gives us. So we'll upload our content there. Google prioritizes YouTube as a video source. So it's actually something we've gone back and forth with a couple times, knowing that. But currently we're uploading also to YouTube and adding a link back to whichever page it is that that video should be tied to.
Out of curiosity, why did you choose Vimeo as your primary hosting platform?
We liked the video player itself. It's very clean in terms of just the design, and their platform is very easy to use. It's great for beginners or people that just kind of want to move quickly. So it's also very inexpensive. It's a little less expensive than Wistia, at least. So.
Yeah, I think from some of our clients' perspectives, they don't like embedding videos from YouTube because sometimes their competitor videos get recommended. So when they choose, when they choose Vimeo, they pay for the premium player, which is £70 a year, and it's only their content that pops up.
And there's great tools like the call to action button at the end, which I mentioned.
Exactly. Oh, interestingly, sorry, on that call to action, that was an interesting point that you brought up. You talked about adding the call to actions within videos, and you talked about adding them at the end of the video. Are there any times when adding them earlier might be appropriate, maybe?
I think that depending on the purpose of the video, for example, like promoting a webinar, you want to have the goal or the objective very clear in the beginning, of course. So saying, sign up or join us for our webinar in the very beginning, but then still having the actual button itself at the end. So definitely think, just how I was saying, you have about 10 seconds to capture someone's attention. You want to make sure that you use those 10 seconds to get them to do whatever it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, sounds good. I agree. We have another question, I think, from Pure Motion. They say, how effective do we think using video on social platforms other than LinkedIn can be, specifically in the B2B market? Are B2B buyers happy seeing this content on personal news feeds, for example, Facebook?
I'll take it unless.
Yeah.
Okay. Or Luke, if you want to jump in.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I was going to say, I might kind of ties into another question I have, but please, by all means, feel free.
So it's definitely a great question, and one that we have asked ourselves many times. But we, for a variety of reasons, do believe it's valuable for B2B companies. The audience on Facebook is just significantly larger than on LinkedIn. So the number of the audience that you can reach there is bigger for sure. It also is a place that I think you can kind of develop a little bit more of a personal interaction with your audience. So we actually have different content that we post on different channels. So that's a big thing there. The content you're posting on LinkedIn probably isn't the right content for Facebook or Instagram. Instagram is another one. I think for B2B businesses, we've seen that grow significantly over the past year. Maybe even some of you have gotten ads on Instagram for B2B businesses. I know I do often. But I think it's also, it's, you know, it's where people are, and you just want to get in front of people where they are. So.
Sounds good. And then in terms of,
Can I add a point to that? And I so agree. Like for me, I push all of my videos to different social media channels: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram for sure, and sometimes even on TikTok. And because I like, people are on different platforms, you just never know. Like if someone loves Twitter, for example, they don't go to other places unless they are people like us, marketers. And so I try to, like, you know, put them, of course you have to customize a little bit. As Hillary mentioned, you know, different social media platform has different context. And I also love, you know, posting on social media because it really opens the conversation. A lot more interactive, especially for content. You are looking for feedback from your audience, and on social media, you can really gain people's feedback, and they can also share with their friends. And I think that's an additional feature you can think about if you are really seeking advice or tips, or which design do you like better, the name of the book, things like that. And I think, you know, like posting on social media platforms can be another plus.
Sounds good. And then just out of curiosity, do the principles of video in terms of the way that they're used on a website, do the same principles apply for B2B as B2C, if that makes sense, for a B2C website?
It's a great question. I think it depends. I think for the principles, yes, I would say. You know, context, I think, you know, if you're posting a new skin product that you have, you want to make sure that the video is about that skincare product on the page. Links, optimization, and having a call to action, I really think it's the same. So you just kind of course, are tailoring it to whatever, you know, the goal is for the call to action. For a consumer B2C brand is probably buy, you know, make a purchase of a new product, versus for us, it's request a demo. So.
Perfect. Great answer. Okay. Well, another question from Hans Knapp. They have asked, animation or real people for video tutorials? I mean, I can jump in on this one if you like. I mean, it depends, in my opinion, on the context of the video, the context of the tutorial. From our experience in working with tutorial videos on YouTube, what we found is a tutorial video can actually, you can get away with being very low quality in terms of production, and you can have very, very long videos, so in excess of an hour, and you get very, very high retention rates for those videos. So it really depends, again, on the context of what kind of video you're talking about. We have worked in the past where we've done kind of screen capture animation videos for tutorials, like showing how to use like some kind of online software. And that's worked very well because we can keep it very concise. What might be a 10-minute tutorial with a real person, we might be able to bring down to, say, 3 minutes because it's more concise and animated. But it depends. You have to kind of work out, I guess, what's best for you. And again, the context, again, I think is important in that one.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that there are certain cases where an animation might almost be necessary when concepts are a bit more abstract. So maybe for some tech companies that have a bit more of an advanced product, there's a complicated implementation process, then animation can be very helpful there.
Totally agree. That's a really, really good point. Really good point. We've got another question from Cynthia Membrino. How important is it to take into account KPIs such as video audience retention? So we have shortened our videos to try and improve this KPI, but usually users don't consume the whole video. So again, this is probably going to be different depending on where you're viewing it. I guess if you're viewing it on a website, you probably, based on information that Hillary's provided, you're going to want the video to be quite short, I would guess. You said on YouTube. Okay, sorry, that was an additional thing added on there. In YouTube, it can make a big difference. So one of the most important metrics on YouTube is actually watch time. So the amount of watch time you get really impacts how YouTube perceives that video. It's their most important metric for trying to determine the quality of a video. So when it comes to duration, what we always say is the duration should be the ideal duration. Don't try and inflate it to make it longer, because people aren't going to watch the whole thing, but don't try and make it shorter either. It just needs to be the right length. It's a difficult balance to try and get, but you want to try and make sure you get the higher retention time as possible. If you've got people, if you know that people aren't watching your videos all the way through, then what you need to do is look at your audience retention graph and see if you can work out why people aren't watching your videos all the way through. Is there a key point in every video where you lose people? So for example, do you have like a 30-second intro which just shouldn't be there? You just need to chop it out. Do you say something that just doesn't resonate with your audience and you put people off and they've left? You just need to just constantly look at what you've previously done and try and learn from that before you create your next video.
I can add something that worked really well in my case. So in the beginning, I tell my audience, hey, watch until the end. There is a surprise, or there's a PDF you can download, whatever I'm talking about. There's like a workbook, or like, just to tease the audience a little bit to make sure they watch until the end. So try that.
I like it. That's really good. I mean, that comes back to another question I had for you, Hilary, as well. You talked about grabbing the viewer's attention within that first 10 seconds. I wondered if you had any kind of recommendations for kind of ideas for how you might do that.
Yeah, so I mentioned using text. So having text caption or subtitles can do the trick. I think that can quickly give people an understanding of what the video is about. Hopefully they're interested in whatever the topic is. Also using people's faces is great. So it could be stock imagery or stock video footage, or of course, like an interview or a talking head sort of format. But people tend to like people, especially on social channels.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. I would always say as well, some kind of unique hook, if you can get it, it's always great. From a YouTube perspective, one of the most important things we've found is actually making sure that we're meeting expectations. So within YouTube, the thumbnail is extremely important to the success of the video. And oftentimes people think they've been clickbaited if what they're seeing within that first few seconds doesn't match the expectations of the thumbnail. So making sure you've matched that expectation can be a really important factor as well.
Yeah, I watched videos like that. I'm like, what is this about? It's so different. Yeah.
We've also found as well, coming back to what you said, reverse storytelling works quite well. So again, people's patience is very low. So sometimes showing them the conclusion first and then leading back through that story as to how you came to that conclusion can be really effective.
I have even applied those of you, if you do live video, I even say that at the beginning of my live interview, hey, in this interview, after you watch this, you are going to walk away with ABC. So that I think will like entice people to watch the entire hour webinar. Yeah.
Definitely. Sounds great. Okay, we've got a question from Tonya Knott. She says, do you think PowerPoint type videos are effective, or should we be on camera? So it kind of comes back to what you said before, Hilary, about I think people liking seeing a face, basically.
Yeah. I think PowerPoint type videos, meaning maybe like the caption videos that showed some examples of. I think that you can incorporate video footage of people, and it will, like I said, do the trick there of showing, human faces. But I do think having a variety is good. And I also think video is such a powerful way to show your company and your brand. And part of that is a lot the people behind it. So I think having even people within your company or your customers, it's really leveraging what video is good at and having a more emotional or deeper connection with the viewer.
I so agree. I think especially if you are a solopreneur as myself, you are your brand. Like people follow you, they get to know you because you are kind of the face for the company, and people love to see content that has you. And another thing I discovered, because like for some of my PowerPoint presentations, sometimes I don't know how to engage with people. This is something I invested recently. I learned it from my coach. And sometimes when you are writing something on the board and people associate that with, hey, you are actually teaching something, has been a like nice attention grabber, like for me in my case. So I don't know if it can work for you, but that is another idea that has been like working out for me. And try different, as Hillary mentioned, try different, PowerPoint, this and that, see which one works best for you.
Perfect. I love it. We've got a question from Andy Simpson. He says, I have a problem with video compression when uploading to YouTube. Is there anything we should be aware of when uploading? That's an interesting issue. I've seen that a few times with a few people where they've uploaded a video which should have been HD, but when they've uploaded it, YouTube has only interpreted it as a standard definition. So I think it was like a 480 pixel resolution, which is really small. I can't remember the exact issue with it. I think they maybe rendered it at quite a low bit rate. Andy, if it's Andy Simpson that I think that I know, by all means, feel free to PM me and give me more details, and I'll see if I can diagnose that issue for you. But just basically make sure you've rendered it at the correct format. Would be my first bit of advice for you. I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that one. Next we have this is an interesting one. This is a bit of a difficult question, perhaps for you, Hillary. When within your presentation, you talked about a lot of very, very tangible metrics, things that are quite easy to measure, I guess, in some respects. So you got things like time on site, conversion rate, increased visibility in search engines. But I imagine there's quite a few other benefits to using video on your website as well, which are harder to measure or maybe less tangible. Things like perception, trust, and brand sentiment, these kinds of things. Do you have any way of of measuring any of these things? Is it something that you take into account?
It's a great question, and it is a hard question. It's something I think that any marketer or any entrepreneur who's responsible for brand struggles with, right? So just measuring impact on brand affinity, loyalty, awareness, it's definitely a challenge. I think one thing you can look at potentially is sort of velocity through your pipeline is one thing. So basically from the first point that you have an interaction with someone, whether it's, they visit your website or maybe they submit their contact information, how long does it take them to get to your ultimate goal? So any reduction there, you could try to measure that once you implement a video strategy or continue to make changes. If you've been able to see any sort of increase in velocity across your pipeline or funnel. Trying to think of another one that I didn't mention already.
I think historically it's something that we ourselves have always found very difficult to kind of understand fully and to fully measure. And I think especially when we post a lot of videos to different platforms, we get a lot of people that watch the videos and seemingly like the videos, but never really engage, never really let us know that they watched them. They've kind of been like the silent viewers, so to speak. And then when people call us, they'll say, oh, I really like that video that you did on XYZ. And it's like, really? Wow, that had virtually no engagement. I had no idea, but they had that brand affinity because they'd seen that video and obviously liked something within it. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits that we always try and explain to some of our customers. There's all these other intangible benefits to creating video that perhaps are more difficult to measure.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got another question here from Hillary Allen. If your video is only 1 minute and we want to embed it in a blog post, is it best practice to upload the 1 minute video to YouTube and then embed?
So you can use definitely YouTube to host your videos and embed the YouTube embed code within your blog. I think it's a great, it can definitely help with SEO and your ranking. There are issues with that, which Luke, you touched on one of them, recommended videos after, the inability to sort of custom brand the video player itself from YouTube. So you kind of have to think about what's more important to you, I guess. But I think if that's, seems like a good option, you don't have any issues with the recommended videos after and the branding, then using YouTube to embed the video within a blog is a great way to go. And then if not that, then looking at other tools like Vimeo or Wistia, some of the others we talked about.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out the scope of the question, actually. I think generally speaking, if you're asking whether or not you would upload the video directly to your site, you can do, but I'd always recommend using a dedicated video host, video platform like YouTube, Vimeo, Wistia, whatever it may be. If you're saying whether you should just include them as a general principle, then yes, definitely. For the reasons Hillary said, I think there's a lot of benefits to a company, embedding a video into your posts. Are videos as effective for service-based companies as product-based companies? So again, I think when you're talking through your presentation, a lot of the examples you use, even just myself listening to it, I was like, wow, that really applies to e-commerce websites, for example. If you could have a video with every single product, I could really see how that would improve conversion rates. Is it as useful for service-based companies?
Well, Luke, maybe you want to jump in too, but I say yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would agree as well. I think, we are a service-based company, and I think, although I think it's a much clearer path to conversion when you've got someone who's actually adding something to a cart and buying, I still think that having that persona and understanding who the people are behind the company can be really important as a buying decision when people are deciding, who to use as a supplier. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When it comes to tracking video engagement on a site, have you got any best ways of doing it, any best practices? What are your thoughts on just really understanding how people are using video on your site?
So within whichever platform you're using, we talked about some of the metrics that YouTube provides, like watch time, for example, but really any hosting platform should include some sort of metrics and analytics that you can look at. So looking there just to see sort of how the video in itself is performing, how long people are watching, if they're watching the full video, how many people are clicking to watch. But of course, then trying to tie that back to other things like conversion rate. So you can use tools like Google Analytics to look at pathways and events within your website if someone clicked a video and then converted, and sort of the percentage from click to video to conversion rate, for example.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think we discovered an interesting point for one of our clients recently. They were hoping to collect all their statistics through YouTube, but the videos that they had posted on their website were actually unlisted because they wanted them to be visible on the site, but they didn't want people to see them on their YouTube channel. And as a result, YouTube wasn't actually collecting any data on any of the views. So they ended up having to use Google Analytics as well, and I think they used Tag Manager to really start collecting more data on that. And then what they found was actually for them, it was easier to have a centralized place with all the statistics about the video watch time and usage and everything else, all within analytics, rather than having to jump between YouTube and Google Analytics.
Yeah,
that's so interesting. Cool. And we're running out of time. So just a quick tip. And recently I got a little bit obsessed with ClickFunnels. So I got some of my live streaming video content where I did free training. So I got like a few videos. I built a ClickFunnels page, and I can see how many people from the ClickFunnels Insight Analytics, see how many people actually watch my video, how long they watch, and how many people did my call to action.
Perfect. Sounds great. I think we've got one more question coming through, and I think it's almost time then to wrap up. It's another question from Hans Knapp. He says, a question to I. Would you re-edit a live video for a past stream? I mean, cutting slow moments, adding writings, etc.
Again, like for me, my business, I think it goes back to what we discussed earlier. I'm selling my service, which is my school. I don't really sell myself as a video editing professional. So it is not my goal. But if it is something that you do at your company, maybe you should do that. So for me, like people mainly consume the content. They want to learn something. So I don't really do fancy editing. And I just and nowadays when I go live, I don't even mention many people's names because I do have people who watch my replay. They come back to me. They told me all their names. Hey, thank you for joining us live. Hey. They told me it's very disruptive. So I don't do that anymore. But after the show, I go back to each individual. I send them a quick video. I say, hey, Allison, thank you for joining us live. So I don't have to do much editing at all. I don't really do much at all. But that is my audience. That is my goal. So think about what is the goal for you and what is your service, and think that way.
Perfect. Love it. Okay, so I think that's probably all we have time for. Oh, sorry, one last question coming through from HandSnap again. Question to me. How cold was the water in that bucket? It was absolutely freezing. On the morning of that video, it was actually hailing and snowing outside, and I was basically stood outside in my shorts and t-shirt for a good while.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Dedication.
Yeah, it is. Our technical director was taking far too much pleasure in filling the buckets with freezing cold water and practicing his technique for throwing the water over my head. So they had a great time. I had a big woolly jumper on for the rest of the afternoon, I can assure you.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so I think that's all we got time for today. Where can people find you online?
So I have the same social media handle, AIADDYSONZHANG. Every single social media platform, the same thing.
Perfect. And what about yourself, Hillary?
So we are at wibbitz.com. It's WIBBITZ, and it's also the same across all of our social channels.
Perfect. If anybody wants to reach out to me, you can do so at lsharon at Twitter, and you can use my company socials as well, which are all Falcon Digital, and that's Falcon with a K. I always have to say that because the K really confuses everybody. So thank you to Hillary and I. Hillary, thank you very much for your presentation and all of your insights. I thank you again for joining us today. And everyone who joined, thank you very much for your time. I hope you found it interesting and useful. And of course, a final thank you, of course, to SEMrush. So I think that's bye for now, and hopefully see you again in a future webinar. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Bye.